today we're going to talk about how to create your ideal evening ritual. I mean, the reality is today we all know that we're getting so much more extra digital information with TVs and computers, cell phones, iPads, and tablets. All of these things create artificial light that influences our circadian rhythms, which we talked about in one of the other lessons. Now, the reality is your success level in totally optimizing your life has a lot to do with how you set up both your morning, remember the morning ritual, but also the evening ritual. In other words, your body works really well if it goes on a cycle. So just a reminder, here is the circadian rhythm, right? Here is planet Earth. It runs on about a 24-hour clock. Now, your body's a little bit off on that, but for most intensive purposes, ideally, if you get up, let's say, at 6 a.m., and then you go to bed at, say, 10 p.m., you've got 18 hours of productivity, okay? Excuse me, 16 hours. Oh, boys, didn't even add that right. So then you've only got 8 hours. But there's two key components, and that is right here. This is your 24-hour clock, and that is right here. This little window, okay? This is how you start your day, and this is how you unwind. I mean, have you ever had this situation where, you kind of went to bed and your mind was racing, or you kept running the story of the last movie that you watched just before bed, or perhaps you slept, you kept waking up because you were having all these weird dreams? Well, the reality is that largely in part has to do with how you unwind at night. If you look at some of the most successful people out there, guys like Tim Ferriss, for example, he has a whole pattern where he reduces his time here and starts reading fiction. I know Ty Lopez likes to read biographies, a little bit slower than he reads. Those guys are well known in the high performance area. The bottom line is there is an emerging science behind a good evening ritual. And discovering yours is it's kind of like mixing your own format. Everybody's a little bit different. But one thing that we do know is that you want to get rid of things like blue light for the last couple of hours. So maybe from 8 p.m. Blue light, the stuff that's generated from your computers or your television or that sort of stuff, this really messes up with your circadian rhythm, really messes up with your sleep patterns. It also gets you out of the optimal brain states. We talked a little bit about brain states. We'll be doing more of that in an upcoming, right? So we have alpha, and we have beta, and we have theta, and we have delta, and then there's another one called gamma. But more importantly, this is where you're in that high energy, brains racing through the day, caffeinated, watching the horror film or the sporting thing. This is the beta zone. And unfortunately, when you're in that zone, this is not the ideal zone for sleeping. The ideal zone is you slip in here is in theta. Okay, so basically that space where you kind of drift in and you're half awake and you're half asleep. That is the optimal zone to get into. And how you do that has to mean that you need to develop a ritual that works for you. Number one of the great ways that I use to unwind is once I hit a certain point in the night, that's it. I get off my computer and no television. And people go, "What? No television in the evening? What do you do?" Well, oftentimes what I'll do is I'll just go for a walk outside if I can. And ideally, if you can get your feet on the ground, we talked a little bit about grounding, or also some people will have grounding pads if you're in front of computers and stuff like that a lot. So you can use grounding pads. Basically what that does, just to remind you, is the grounding pads help you get your electromagnetic body back into state so you can kind of turn down the juice. The other thing is you want to find a way to switch out of blue light stuff. Reading good books is another great source. So reading books, the reason being, and I like physical books because you can sit there with a little light on, sitting in your bed, kind of relaxing, watching that. That's great. The other thing is you want to get the TV out of the bedroom. And that also goes for the computer. That goes for the cell phones. iPads, all that electronic equipment, and even e-readers, anything that creates electromagnetic energy. Now, some people are way more sensitive to electromagnetic frequencies or EMF radiation, and we do a talk about that as well, and how to check that in your house. And so you really, if you're one of those people that are really sensitive, one of the things is I would remove all electronic equipment out of the bedroom. So another thing to do here is having a ritual about, what are the sleeping patterns? Are you blacking out the light? So, for example, throughout history, humans didn't really have a lot of light in the evenings. Electricity is a relatively new thing. We had candlelight, which still wasn't that bright, and I guess before that we had like fires at the caves. But the bottom line is getting light out of your life. When I grew up in the country, it was 5 miles to my nearest neighbor, and there was no light. At nighttime, it was dark. And when it's dark, you tend to go to bed early, and you have no problem waking up with sunrise. And basically, there's a whole cycle in here inside your body that responds to light. And as light, turns on your pineal gland, that's a little gland at the top of your head, this will regulate your entire rhythm. If you put blue light in here, this starts throwing off the rhythm. Just kind of like if you travel. I travel a lot, so having an evening ritual will help condition your body into expectation here this last 8 hours. So, number 1, I suggest start out with reading. Number 2, eliminate all blue light. Number 3, okay, you want to go to blackout zone if you can, if you're very sensitive to light, because this here, and when I put blue light, I'm going to put, we'll just get rid of this little part here. We're going to go to all EMF equipment, so all electronics. Remove it from your bedroom. If you're kind of wound up, do a little walking. Not hardcore exercising, but a nice, easy walk. I live by the seawall. When I'm in Vancouver, I like to go for a walk or walk along the beach. It's kind of relaxing with no texting on the phones, anything like that. But more importantly, if you live in the city, this is probably a key component. The reason being is these lights can keep us awake, especially if they're shining in your bedroom. So at least get some blinds where you can black that out, or some people like to go to the total blackout zone. The other thing is room temperature. Room temperature is really important. Room temperature, you want to get it to a cool, almost uncomfortably cool zone. Your body, as it cools down, particularly in the evening, that's a signal for it metabolically to just kind of relax. And then finally, what we're going to do, so we're going to go temperature. One of the other things that we want to look at is background noise. Now, some people think that you need to have a totally quiet environment, but the research is now showing that a little bit of noise in the background is actually good. Now, not too much noise. So a lot of people are getting what's called a white noise machine or sound thing, and basically it's a sound that plays noise. One of the interesting things that I discovered was years ago is turning on a dishwasher. Turning on a dishwasher, for some reason, I could lay down and listen to the dishwasher going, bang, I pass out. And I don't know if it's because it kind of recreates the sounds when you were a baby or whatever, but they're showing now that a little bit of white noise is a great way to kind of tone down and relax into your ritual. The bottom line is if you go to our website, we'll have some more rituals out there, some people that they use, and kind of find the one that works best for you. There's no 100% right answer on this because everybody's a little bit different. And of course, if you travel a lot, some people will use, if you do have to be on the computer, we'll put on the blue light blockers, which have a big effect and make it so you can shut down easy. Those people, I know a lot of computer people get wound up till 12, 1, 2, 3, 4 in the morning. It's because that blue light keeps them awake. Put those on and then you feel naturally inclined to go back to sleep. Those are great options. Some people prefer to sleep with the eye patches over top of their head that blacks out all light. That's another option for you. And the bottom line is start putting these things together and then practice it. And then once you have your ritual, your evening ritual down, okay, stick to it. One of the things that almost all successful people have found is that get into a rhythm. Wake up at the same time every day. Go to bed at the same time every day. I know one of my good friends is Elliot Hulse. He's well known in the strength community, and I've never seen a guy that is so rigid about his morning and evening rituals. I mean, he's got it right down to a science. He gets up at the same time, goes for his walk in the morning, does his own morning ritual, has his evening rituals, unwinds, and no matter where we are, we've been traveling around the world a few places together, and he just, bang, shuts it down. So real learning experience on there. Go to the BiOptimizers website, check in the course, and we'll look at some other options for you and get this routine down. Don't underestimate how powerful it is. And believe me, some people say, well, wait, I can't get enough done if I'm not working here. Guess what? You can. Once you get optimized and this is your meat and potatoes of work zone, you'll find that your rituals start to lock in and you'll be on the next level of biological optimization. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and we'll see you on the next one.